Okay, we are on the closer to the end of Parak Lamed Beis. At the bottom, it's page 148. On the top, it's page 82. And we're in the middle of the page. Okay, we just started it. I just mentioned it orally, and I said we're going to learn it next week. Now, the Rebbe is speaking about the mitzvah of you have to love everybody. And he says, and he explains why, because you and me and him and her are all the same neshama, the bodies are different, so therefore we're really you and if the soul is more important than the body, which is the essence of what Torah is all about, so then obviously you're going to love somebody else because you and them are the same thing. What differentiates us, what separates us is the body. The neshama is all the same. So therefore, now the Rebbe went into a different question. He asked the question at the bottom of the other page. The Gemara says sometimes if you see somebody, your friend sinning, you have to hate him, and you have to tell people to hate him. So the Rebbe explains that's not what the Gemara means. The Gemara means it's your equal in Torah and mitzvahs. He's on your level, and you admonished him, and he still didn't listen. Then you have a mitzvah to hate him. Meanwhile, the Rebbe is going to change that also. Then the Gemara says you have a mitzvah to hate him. But somebody who is not on your level of Yiddishkeit, then you have to do what Hillel said. Love peace, run after peace, love creatures, and bring them closer to Torah. And the Alter Rebbe explains what does it mean when Hillel said, love creatures? He means that the only uniqueness this person has is that they're a creature of Hashem. That's it. And that person, Hillel says, you have to love. And Mikayvon Latayda, bring them closer to Torah. That's what he says. Now, we're standing in the middle of the page. And he says like this. Now, the Alter Rebbe is going to add even to what the Gemara says, that an equal that you admonished, and he's not repenting, then you have a mitzvah to hate him. The Alter Rebbe is going to say, no, that's not what it means. He says, it's like smack in the middle of the page. Even the people that are close to you, and you admonish them, they didn't do tshuva, like you said before. That the Gemara says it's a mitzvah to hate them. Now the Rebbe says now mitzvah li'avam gamke. There's also a mitzvah to love them. Reb Zusha said that you hear what they say in the heavenly courts, that it's a mitzvah to love a complete Rasha as much as you love a complete tzaddik. That's what they say in the heavenly worlds. And he says both are true. The Gemara says you have a mitzvah to hate him. At the same time, the Alter Rebbe says you have a mitzvah to love. How could that be? Both are true. How can you love and hate at the same time? He says like this. You hate their evil. And you love the hidden good that they possess. Which is the godly spark, which is within them, that gives life to the godly soul. I'll never saying like this. The biggest sinning Jew still has hidden good within them. The essence of the Jew, which is hidden, is not affected in any way whatsoever, whether you sin or not. Your outward intellect, emotions, thought, speech, and action, that's affected when you sin. But the essence of the person, the neshama, that's not affected at all by sin. The simple analogy of this we started discussing last week is a child. Parents love a child unconditionally. Parents have unconditional love to their child. Yet when the child does something bad, you're angry, you're upset, you hate what they did. But what do you hate? You don't hate them. Your love to them is unconditional because the relationship between you and the child is a deep, essential love, which is above behavior. So what do you hate? You don't hate the child. You hate what they did. A parent should never tell a child, I hate you. That's a very wrong statement, a disgusting statement to say, and it's a lie. You tell a child, I hate what you did, but I love you. And it's not a contradiction. And now the Rebbe says the same thing isn't this with another Jew. You have a friend on your level who sinned, and you admonish them properly 100 times, like the halacha is, and they still didn't do tshuva. The Gemara says you have to hate them. So the Rebbe is explaining, what are you hating? Not them. You're hating their behavior. You hate what the evil that they did. But the good as a Jew, as a Yid, the hidden spark of Yiddishkeit in the Jew, that you have to love. And he says, and so that's one thing. So in other words, El Rebbe says like this. If a Jew is not on your level and he sins, of course you have to love him because you have to bring him closer to Torah. Even if he's on your level and he sins and it doesn't do tshuva, you love him anyway. What do you love? The person. You hate what they do. You hate the evil they commit, but you love the person. And now Dr. Evans says another thing what you need to do. The Gam, what also is important, to awaken pity on their heart. Meaning, for the divine soul, you have to awaken pity on it. Ki bechinas golus, because, in other words, when I see somebody sin, and they're not doing tshuva, yes, I hate what they're doing, but I love them. I love the neshama. And then you have to have pity on their neshama. Why? Ki bechinas golus b'teichara. That neshama is exiled in the evil. Exile means somebody else controls you. If you control yourself, you're not in exile. Exile is when another nation controls you, that you have no say. So he says the neshama of this person is doing evil is in exile. It's an exiled neshama. It's pity on the neshama. That's such a holy neshama, which is a chelek alakami mal, which is literally a part of Hashem, now is going and doing evil. You have to have pity on the neshama. And the Ageva, which is in Golus, the Teicha of evil, Hagever Aleo B'Rashayim, which is victorious over them by wicked people, that evil is victorious over the good. V'Rachamanas, and then he says like this, you have to have pity on the guy. Rachmanis Mevateles Hasina, and then, as we know, pity, compassion, destroys hatred, and awakens love. He says like this. This person that is not doing tshuva on your level, and the Gemara says it's a mitzvah to hate him. He says, yes, it's a mitzvah to hate them. But what are you hating? They're evil. You don't hate the neshama which is in them, which is a part of Hashem. Not only that, you have to go a step further. You have to have rachmanis, you have to have pity and compassion on this level of the neshama that is in such a great exile that even this person who learns and is still doing these terrible things, you have to awaken within yourself pity on that neshama of that person that's doing evil. What do you gain by awakening rachmanis, compassion? He says it's known that pity destroys hatred and awakens a love. Everybody knows, we mentioned this many times in the classes. Very often, social workers fall in love with their patients, with the ones they're dealing with. Why is that? Because when the social worker is dealing with somebody with whatever, special needs, whatever you want to call it. Physical, mental, doesn't matter. But they're dealing with somebody with physical needs. They actually have pity on the person. And that pity actually awakens a love. That's what it is. Pity awakens a love. So when you're going to have pity, again, you hate what they do. But you don't hate the neshama. And not only that, you have pity on the neshama. That Nebuch, look where it fell down to. It fell down to the lowest of the lowest of the low. That is going to get rid of your hatred to that person, and it's going to awaken a love to the person. And like it says, as it's known, what the pasuk says, Yaakov asher pada es Avram. Yaakov, who redeemed Avram. Very interesting pasuk. Nowhere in Chumash or Tanakh do we find that Yaakov redeemed Avram. Yaakov was 15 years old when Yaakov died. When Avram Avinu died. Until then, Yaakov was sitting and learning. Where do we find that Yaakov redeemed Avram? So Chassidus explains what the pasuk means is as follows, what Alter Rebbe just said. Avram is the level of chesed, which is love. Yitzchak is the level of yira, which is fear. Yaakov, titin emes liYaakov, Yaakov is the level of rachmanus. Rachmanus, compassion, mercy. Yaakov, the pasuk says, redeems Avraham. What does it mean? Avram represents love. Sometimes the love is hidden. It's in captivity. It's hidden. It's all the same thing. What does Yaakov do? What does the level of Rachmanis, compassion and mercy do? Pada es Avram, it redeems the level of Ava, which is in jail by wherever it is. So what's the level of Yaakov Avinu? Yaakov Avinu is the level of Rachmanis, to have, which awakens love and destroys hatred. Therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, when you see somebody sinning, instead of hating them, pity them, have compassion for them. What is the compassion? The compassion is that the neshama is in golus. It has no control not to do the evil. The body is controlling the neshama and does evil. That demands a big rachmanis, a big compassion, a big mercy, a lot of pity. When you do that, that pity actually awakens the love. It awakens the love on that person and that neshama. Now the Alter Rebbe finishes the parak and he says, David HaMelech says in Tillim, Tachlis sinos senesim, with the ultimate hatred, I hated them. They were my enemies. That's contradictory to what we just said. And Alter Rebbe says, David HaMelech didn't say, Tachlis sinos senesim, with the ultimate hatred, I hate them. It doesn't, but they were my enemies. That only goes on the minim and apikursim, on the total heretics and atheists. Shein chelik v'lakei yisod, the taka have no part of have no portion in godliness, like the Gemara says at the beginning of the 16th chapter of Shabbos. So Alter Rebbe says, when David HaMelech says, I hate them with ultimate hatred, that is referring to apikursim, total atheists, total heretics, total people that don't believe. Now, let's realize something over here. Somebody once came into the previous Rebbe and said, Rebbe, I'm an apikuritis. Amin. Amin is apikuritis, same thing. They don't believe in term in a shemayim, they don't believe in the oral term, whatever it may be. In Svarv, it's brought down, interesting, just in passing, that the word min, which in the Gemara refers to min of apikursim, min is an acronym for Mitalmidei Yeshu Notzri, and the students of Yoshker. In the Gemara is known as Yeshu Noitzri. So min is the Dr. Tshuva, if I remember, brings down that min stands for Tamida Yeshu Neitzri, means the Tamidim of Yoshket. So what it means is like this. What somebody came to the previous Rebbe and said, Rebbe, I'm an Apikoros. So the previous Rebbe said to him, no, you're not. You're a fool. And he explained it. And to preface it, in Russia, the guys, the bums that would stand on the street corners would eat sunflower seeds. You know, in Israel, they're called garinim. But in Russia, they were called semichkis. Here we call them sunflower seeds. And when you eat sunflower seeds, you know, it knacks the shell. It makes a knacking sound. So in Russia, there was an expression that the bums that stand on the corner doing nothing the whole day, they're knacking semichkis. They're knocking, they're making a big clapping sound when they eat the sunflower seeds. So the Friedrich Rebbe said to him, the previous Rebbe said to this guy who said he's an apikoros. He said, do you think that an apikoros means standing on the corners, knacking semichkis? Do you think that's what an apikoros is? That's a fool. An apikoros, according to Torah, by the way, means somebody who learns and knows everything and throws it out. That's a min. Today, an average Jew in the street, even if they say, I don't believe in God, they're not a min or an apikoros. They just don't know. They never learned. An apikoros, by definition, means a scholarly apikoros. And yet they throw everything away. So when you're talking about, David HaMelech says, who is he talking about? Minim and apikursim, meaning not people that are not from and just say, I don't believe in God. You're talking about people that know it all of Torah and still don't believe in God. Then David HaMelech says, then you're allowed to hate them with the ultimate hatred. Okay, that finishes Perek Lamed Beis. Let's start Lamed Gimel. Now, if you remember, how did the Alter Rebbe get into Perek Lamed Beis? So the Alter Rebbe said before in the earlier chapters, the Alter Rebbe was explaining that you have to, if the wood is too thick, you know, the body is too thick and the flame of the neshama is not catching on it, you got to bust it up. And he went into the things, don't worry about it, it's not going to be into depression because it's meridus, it's not this. And anyway, he says, and you need to realize in the process that the soul is more than the body. Okay? From there, the Alter Rebbe went, now we can understand the mitzvah of after Echa Kamecha. Because the soul is more important than the body. Now the Alter Rebbe says like this. We're talking about the person having simcha. He says in the beginning, Lamed Gimel, chapter 33. This is another thing that will cause true simcha, true joy of the nefesh, ubefrat, and express especially when a person looks into himself and he sees be'itim mezumanim in designated times, and he has to purify it and illuminate it. Besimchas levav, in the joy of the heart. And Alter Rebbe says in designated times. And let's learn a few more lines and I'll explain why Alter Rebbe says this. As I yamik machshavte, then what should a person do? He should delve his mind deeply. The yitzayer b'sichle ubinase, and he should picture with his intellect and his understanding. Inyan yichude yizbarach amiti, the true oneness of Hashem, the true unity of Hashem. Echu mamale kol almin, the way Hashem permeates the world. Oyenim v'tachtoinim, the highest world, the lowest world. Afilu male chol haaretz alazu, even what permeates. It says, we say male chol haaretz kveidei. Right? Kadosh, kadosh, kadosh. Male chol haaretz kveidei means a whole world, full, full, full. When it says full, it means not 99.9, because then it's not full. Full means 100% full of kveidei is barich. And nothing exists as far as in comparison to Hashem. But before we go into it, let me go back a little. The Gemara tells a story in Brachis. The famous Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai, who was the main disciple after Hillel. By the way, the Gemara says Hillel had 60 students. The greatest was Yonasan ben Uziel. The youngest, meaning the lowest student, was Yechon ben Zakkai, Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai, who was super great, how great he was. Anyway, when this Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai was in his deathbed, his students came to visit him. And he was crying. He was crying on his deathbed. Like he's afraid to die. So the students said to him with their proper titles and everything, they said to him, why are you crying? Basically, why are you afraid of dying? And he answered them, the Gemara says, I see in front of me two roads. One to Gehenna and one to Gan Eden. And I don't know where they're leading me to. Are they going to lead me to Gehenna or are they going to lead me to Gan Eden? I don't know where I'm going to go. And that's why I'm crying. So Chassidus asks, how could that be? Yechon ben Zakkai, the Gemara said, never walked 6 feet without Torah. Unbelievably great. Unbelievably great. How in the world, Michael, you have to mute yourself, please. How in the world can Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai think he's going to Gehenna? So Chassidus explains a very profound concept. He gives a mashal of a businessman. You have a store, okay? The store is open for business a whole day. During the day, you're busy doing business. You can't sit down during the day and make keeping the books or make a reckoning how much money is coming in and how much money is going out, because then you're not going to run your business. While you're running the business, you have no time to make reckonings because then you're going to lose out on business. When the business is closed at night or whenever it is, the business is closed, then you could sit down and make a cheshbon, what money came in, what money went out, and so on and so forth. But you can't make a cheshbon during the day when you're working in the office or in the business, how much money is coming in or out, because then you're taking away business. Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai, it says, felt that this world is the store open for business. If Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai would make a reckoning in his, by the way, he lived 120 years, like Moshe Rabbeinu, like Hillel. If Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai would say, thought to himself, if I sit down and start making the cheshboni calculations where I am in the world, you know, when am I going to do Torah mitzvahs? When am I going to learn? When am I going to daven? When am I going to do mitzvahs? When am I going to do what I need to do? Rabbi Yechon ben Zakkai never sat down for a second to make a cheshbon nefesh, to make a true reckoning, who, what, when, where. Now he's on his deathbed, when he can't do any more Torah mitzvahs. Now is the time to make a reckoning. And that's what he's saying. I have to make a reckoning now where I'm going. How much money, so spiritual, how much money did I make and how much money did I lose? He never knew until then where he was at in levels of spirituality, of levels of Torah mitzvahs, because he was busy working day and night. And he never had the time to make a reckoning. Now, the Rebbe says, Itim Mizumanim, people need to make a self-reckoning, not a whole day. Because if you're going to sit down a whole day and make reckonings, so when are you going to do Torah mitzvahs? By the way, that comes in the Yetzer Hara, you should know. Chassidus explains, sometimes a person, Yetzer Hara is very brilliant and very from. Okay, it could be a religious Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara wants to get you to stop doing Torah mitzvahs, but you're a firm Jew. What do they even get you to do? They come up with brilliant ideas. They say, you really should make a reckoning to know where you are in the world spiritually. Where are you? Meanwhile, he gets you not to do Torah mitzvahs. That's what the Rebbe says. When you make be'itim mezumanim, when you need to make a reckoning every so often to know where I'm at or where I should be at, that's what the Rebbe doesn't say constantly. He says be'itim mezumanim in designated times. Designated times, like the Rebbe says in the Gersa Tshuva, will be a Thursday night before Shabbos, or sometimes in a more daily way before you go to sleep at night. By Krish Malamita, you make a reckoning how much I did for the day. Was it a good day? Tomorrow's going to be a better day. But during the day, during the working hours, you don't make cheshbon. So the Rebbe is beating as a man. What is the reckoning over here that he's saying? You have to meditate into the greatness of Hashem. The way Hashem, nothing is existing, yet he is all over the place. And everything compared to Hashem is nothing, doesn't exist. And he is the only existence in the higher worlds and the lower worlds, meaning even though now there's a world, Hashem is the only existence. Like he says on top line of Mem Beis, the same way God before creation was the only existence. Now that there is a creation, Hashem is still the only existence. And this is what we say every day in davening. For those who say before Haidum, we say a prayer every day, 7 days a week. Atahu kaidem shenivra ha'olam, atahu mishenivra ha'olam. Simply means you, Hashem, were there before the world, and you're there after the world. After you created the world. You were there before you created the world, you're there after you created the world. Chassidus comes along and says, no, it means much deeper than that. It doesn't mean God yet. You existed before, and now you exist now also. Chassidus explains, no, that's not what the thing is telling us. The thing is, it's telling us much deeper. Just like you, before the world existed, there was only you. Ato, the same way, you are the same you, now that there is a world. Hashem didn't change that before he created the world, there was only him. Now there's a world, there's competition. God forbid to say that. A person needs to meditate to create simcha, and we're not going to get there today, obviously. The Rebbe is saying this method of meditation into the greatness of Hashem, how powerful that Hashem is the only existence that exists, is a very true internal way, essential way to come to simcha. It's the only true way to come to simcha. And now the Rebbe is going to elaborate on this in the whole meditation. And then afterwards, he's going to say, when a Jew does one mitzvah, this great God, that's the only existence in the world. When a Jew does one mitzvah, God leaves everything else that exists in the universe and comes to be only with you. The unity only with you. So that causes a great simcha. Anyway, once again, tonight's class was sponsored by Yudis Greenberg for her mother's yard. Shem should have an aliyah.
Amen.
Monday night, there is no class. With the Wednesday night, next Wednesday night, we're going to learn halachas of Purim and chassidus about Purim instead of Tanya. And then after Purim begins the Pesach classes. So until then, everybody have a great Shabbos.